Today's episode of the Ramp It Up podcast contains explicit language and may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener's discretion is advised. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Ramp It Up podcast with your host, Ronell Sinuis.
Are you ready to ramp it up?
Ramp it up, ew!
Hey, yo, ramp it up, B.
Girl, ramp it up! Ramp it up!
The Ramp It Up podcast.
Hey, you need to ramp it up.
Ramp it up.
It's been a long time coming, but we are back with another episode of the Ramp It Up podcast. I am your host and your favorite Zoe on Wheels, Ronell Sinus. Don't be mad at me, guys. I haven't been on the podcast since the end of June of this year of 2023. We missed all of July and all of August, and I promise you, had very good reasons. So again, please forgive me. I was dealing with some health issues and some personal issues. I'm not going to go too much into them as of right now, but I will tell you one thing. After almost 3 full years of being home and wearing masks and vaccinating, the vid got me, y'all. The vid finally caught up. I had the COVID virus or the coronavirus back in July, so I was out of commission for about 2 weeks and almost 3 weeks, actually. Thank the Lord it was not fatal or super severe, whether that's because it was a different strain or I'm just superhuman or the vaccine. I don't know, but I wasn't on any breathing apparatuses. My oxygen levels didn't go below 95, so I was relatively okay. I was just contagious and I actually had pneumonia at the same time, so I was just in the hospital for 2 weeks on antibiotics. I was home the week before, just super sick, not sure what was going on, which sucks because that was my birthday week, so I didn't even get to celebrate my birthday for real this year. But I'm still thankful, and I thank God for each and every day, especially after being sick, because many people, it was fatal for them or just had much worse side effects. So I'm grateful to have made it. Also, the last 2 months I've been super busy. I've been working on a few projects, and here we are. It is now the second week of September. We are in Spinal Cord Injury Awareness Month, and I have 2 great episodes coming up this month. 2 individuals who are staples in the wheelchair user, spinal cord injury, and disorder community. Today we'll be sitting down with Josh Basile. He is an attorney, an advocate, a fellow quad. He's a dad. He's an inventor. And he's just an all-around really cool guy. And I get the chance to sit down with him. And we have a good conversation about his life and how at 18, when he acquired his spinal cord injury, he didn't let it stop him. And he went on to become an advocate, invent some devices and assistive devices to help him in his life and others. And again, just hear his insight. I do have a part 2 planned for him in October, but you'll have to hear more about that in the episode. And he actually let loose a bit of a secret that I was going to share later on. But I'll tell you all now, in October, I'm going to be going to Vegas, bar anything negative happening, hopefully, fingers crossed. It'll be my second flight post spinal cord injury. I'll be attending the United Spinal Association's Strong Wheeled Together conference. It'll be held in Las Vegas on October 19th. 19th through the 21st. It's my second flight post spinal cord injury, and it is going to be my first time in Vegas in general. So look out. I'll have lots of videos while I'm over there. I'm going to try to get a couple interviews of some folks, and it'll be cool just to meet some people that I've been working with over the last 3 years in person. You know, we've just been digital, but it'll be finally great to see them all, a whole mess of wheelchair users, all together, and it'll be my first conference of the sort. So super excited to do so, but for right now, we're going to sit down and enjoy the conversation that I had with attorney Joshua Basile. Hello and welcome back for another episode of the Wrap It Up podcast. I am your host, Ronell Sinus, and I am here with a good friend of mine. I've joked around with Josh a bit before that I've known him and his work prior to actually meeting him, but he goes by the name of Joshua Basile. Josh, say hi to the people.
Ronell, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me on. And I'm excited to be able to speak with you, especially with it being Spinal Cord Injury Awareness Month.
Exactly. September is, I should have worn green just like you're wearing green, but it is for Spinal Cord Injury Awareness Month, and it's the time we take to put aside just to share more about spinal cord injury and disorders, just share information. And being that you're the brain behind Spinalpedia, I think you're the best guy to have on for a Spinal Cord Injury Awareness Month. So thank you so much for making time in your busy schedule, being a dad, working to join me on the podcast.
Looking forward to this, and it's a great way to start off the week as well. And let's jump right into it.
Cool. Now, just to let the people know a bit about you, I'm going to read your bio. Joshua Basile is a C4, C5 quadriplegic, power wheelchair user, disability rights advocate, trial attorney, inventor, and proud father. In 2004, at the age of 18, Joshua was paralyzed below the shoulders in a beach accident. Soon after, he formed the Determined2Heal Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit, to empower newly injured families. Josh created the world's largest paralysis video mentoring network through spinalpedia.com, which I'm very familiar with 30,000 and more now videos searchable by physical functionality. As a medical malpractice lawyer and disabilities rights advocate, Josh serves persons with disabilities both in the courtroom and through policy initiatives. As a community leader and changemaker, Josh works tirelessly to improve the quality of life of the people with disabilities and to continuously break down existing barriers to access and inclusion, independent living, transportation, employment, and web accessibility. Josh, that's a lot. We're going to go through that. We're going to pick it apart just to get some of the details of it. But otherwise, it was just a short way of saying you're an amazing and very busy guy.
Thank you, Ronell. And I right back at you. You're amazing. And I'm very much looking forward to meeting you in person next month in Las Vegas at the Strong Willed Together conference. So
yes, sir. We joke around a lot that growing up, our parents told us don't talk to strangers and don't meet anyone on the internet. Well, we're going to be doing the same thing. We've been doing a lot of it the last couple of years through like Zoom and some of these online forums, but through some of the advocacy work we've been doing, we do a lot of it like throughout the country, and most of it's virtual. So it's going to be cool to finally meet so many people in person.
No, and it definitely takes it to the next level, and it lets our wheels be a lot louder when we're all next to each other and we're wheeling down the hallways. Wherever we're advocating, we turn a lot of heads.
I'm excited to do it because I haven't been around, well, in some of the support group activities that we've done here in Miami, there'll probably be like 30 of us, but I'm sure there's going to be hundreds or at least 100 of us there. So I'm sure people are going to be looking, but most importantly, getting out of our way. Because if I run over a toe, that's your fault. You were looking for it.
It's just definitely one of those things coming together and learning from each other, and just like finding ways that we can just keep building and moving forward, and really so much of it is being in the same room, and especially for a continuous amount of time together, we start thinking through problems, and we find those solutions to the next thing that we need to do, and to break down barriers really is what we're the best at.
Definitely looking forward to not only meeting you, but everyone else. Will your family be joining you, or will you just be finding out yourself?
I'll be coming out with a caregiver and with my partner, Katie.
All right, cool. Well, looking forward to meeting everyone.
Yes.
All right. So Joshua Basile, I've had the pleasure of being on a podcast interview with you and reading up about you. But for our listeners, tell me a little bit about who Joshua Basile is, and then we'll get into some of your background.
Sure. So who I am, it's just my life was flipped upside down, as you mentioned, in 2004, but I was in waist-high water, turning my back to the ocean, and a wave just picked me up and threw me over my boogie board and slammed me headfirst against the ocean floor. And I remember hearing a loud crack, and next thing I knew, I couldn't move anything below my shoulders. And it was a start to a new life when my friends pulled me to shore and woke up in a critical unit with a ventilator in my neck, helped me to breathe. And I couldn't speak at that time because the ventilator takes away your voice. And when I did regain my voice finally a few weeks later, that's really when I became an advocate for life and made every single word count from that moment on. And so much about me is, physically I'm limited to what I can do, but mentally, and cognitively, the sky's the limit. And I've kept on exercising my brain as a muscle and to get smarter and louder and doing everything I can through education. Went back to community. I went to community college right after my injury and then went to undergrad and then graduated magna cum laude from law school without ever flipping a page with my fingers. And that's a testament to having incredible supports and people in my life, but also leveraging technology. It's just there's so much we have out there to accomplish what our minds want us to do. It's just a matter of figuring out what you want to do and making it happen. A lot of times it just takes a little creativity and a willingness to try. But yeah, so that's a little bit about me, how I entered the paralysis world. And then ever since, it's just I've always wanted to do good. I've always wanted to make a difference, not only in my life, but others around me. And it's definitely having a spinal cord injury has given me, it's opened my eyes to a world of possibility, but a world of barriers. As we were saying earlier, there's so much that needs to be done. We've had so many incredible disability champions kind of pave the way for us. But as advocates of today, we need to make those big changes happen. So not only our futures are better, but the futures of others.
Now, I'm going to ask a little bit of background information. First and foremost, where are you from?
I live right outside Washington, D.C. in Maryland, and been here since the early 90s.
So you and I have something in common because it sounds like we both enjoyed water sports. I wasn't more of a big boarder, but I enjoyed jet skiing and snorkeling, and that's actually how I got my injury as well. So both of us in the water. Have you been back into the ocean or a pool or anything since?
Absolutely. I went back the years after my injury to kind of look at the waves and let Mother Nature know that, yes, she's a force, but I'm a force too. And then I ended up doing Life Rolls On one year, which is a surfing organization. And I got back out on the water, went on a surfboard on my elbows and was able to surf again. But I've always been in love with the water. I've always been in love with the beach. It just, unfortunately, I had one really bad vacation, one really bad day at the beach. And it's obviously stuck with me, but the water is just such a special place to be. And I fell in love with sailing since my injury. I never really went sailing prior to my injury. And then I did more and more. There's a local organization called Chesapeake Region Accessible Boating and started going out. And actually we ended up raising money and got a boat where you can actually sail with just your breath. So it creates a sip and puff straw system where you can control the rudder or the ropes. And then I fell in love with the Impossible Dream, which I know is down in your area in Miami.
Yeah.
Shake a leg. And sailing Impossible Dream is when I got on the boat, I ended up reaching out to the captain and the owner and said, let's do something newsworthy. Let's do something kind of crazy with this. The next thing I know, we ended up chartering it and got ESPN to document an adventure where we went from Key West to Cuba and went down there for 4 days, introducing a sport I invented called slingshot golf to a Cuban paraplegic, and sailed back on the Impossible Dream back to Key West, which that was a wild sailing adventure.
Well, you've done a bit more than I have post-injury on the water. I've just had the chance, of course, through OT and recreational therapy. I've been in the pool, but the most exciting I've done so far was, of course, I've been through Shake a Leg as well, but an organization called Anne's Angels comes down here, and I was able to go water skiing, and they got me on a sitting position in a water ski, and then there were two of the instructors with me, and of course my family thought I was crazy to be back on the water, but I was just like, similar to you, Mother Nature was her fault. She didn't pick me out of everyone to hurt. And I was just like, I still love the water. I live in Miami. You have almost no choice but to still love the beach. And I'm Definitely would love to try one of those sip and puff sailboats. We're gonna have to connect at some point. That sounds cool.
Let's definitely talk more about that. But so much of life is, especially in the chairs, living with adventurous wheels. So often it's just like we get stuck in our homes and
Yeah.
get really comfortable, and venturing out becomes really scary. But the second that you do venture out and start experiencing the world around you, you start learning like there's so much more that you can do. It's just a matter of getting out there and figuring it out. And there's amazing organizations all around the country doing adaptive sports programs. And it's just getting out and trying those. You might find out you don't like to do it, but you might find out that you love doing it. And then you have an activity for the rest of your life to have fun with. So, I'm such a big advocate for getting out and kind of living with those adventurous wheels and having some fun.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. I'm the same, and I'm always looking for more adventures. So now, as opposed to myself, who got injured when I was 30, you were a young man. You were literally just entering adulthood. You were 18. So if you could tell me a bit about how it was going into adulthood with your spinal cord injury, and even as far as, how was it in school? Because I've heard from some other people having to get like someone to write your notes or an assistant walk around with you could be always awkward. But how was that experience, and how did your family and friends help you cope?
Yeah, no, having an injury at any age is not easy. But definitely during, my late teenage years, where I'm just starting to become independent for the first time. And it's just I'm so excited to get out from my parents' home and try to figure out who I am as a person. And then, I had 1 year under my belt of college. And then my sophomore year is when I had my spinal cord injury during that summer. And I had to come right back home. But luckily, I had a very supportive home, a family that made sure to let me know that they weren't going to give up on me, and I shouldn't give up on me either. And it's just kind of having that supports in place, and then finding out kind of how to get back into the system. It's that leap of faith, or taking that first wheel rotation to get in the right direction. I ended up entering school. So I got injured August 1st. By that January, I went back to community college.
Okay.
And or went to a community college and took a poetry course. And that poetry course allowed me to get all the different things that were in my mind and my heart and my body out onto paper and into spoken word. And it helped me figure out me and what direction I wanted to go in life. And then I started taking courses on public speaking, and that kind of helped me again find my voice and strengthen the way that I could advocate or be a storyteller, you name it. And it's just the more and more I did with schooling, the more I felt like I was getting back in the community rather than just in the hospital setting where I was just exercising nonstop and trying to heal from the injury. And I loved going back to school anyways, because I was surrounded by girls again, and being able to try to spit my game and try to get back to it. I was a teenager, and I miss that. And sports were a big part early on, and I missed that a lot too. And I didn't know how to do many things, because I just physically couldn't do it. And I used to go like golfing with my dad and my friends after my injury, but I would just watch as a spectator. And it just, after probably about 4 years of watching, all of a sudden I had a dream one night, and I pictured this putting device that swung on a pendulum and would go back and forth. And all of a sudden I ended up that weekend building a PVC pipe version of a pendulum putting device to hit a golf ball. And that was the start to inventing a sport called slingshot golf, where we now have a putting device to get the ball in the hole, but we also use slingshots to hit the long ball. And we just added a club in the past year and a half called the Swingless Golf Club that uses blank bullets to shoot out a piston about 2 inches outside the golf club. And it actually can launch a golf ball over 200 yards. So you can go over 2 football fields. And now getting out and playing golf, it's like I'm doing it on my own. It's like playing like a video game, but with live controllers.
Oh, that sounds cool. Like, do you
It's
have any
really,
videos or anything I could check out? Because this sounds.
yeah, I could definitely share some with you.
Oh, wow, cool.
And but so yeah, so much about life after my injury. It was, before my injury, I did things 1 million ways. And after my injury, I now have to figure out how to do it 1 million new ways, 1 million different ways. And different can still be fun, can still provide meaning and smiles and excitement and adrenaline and just getting out there and experiencing the world. It's just you just gotta find your path forward. Like so much of life is trying to kind of have that focus of what you can do rather than dwelling on what you cannot. Because like in the beginning, I sometimes would focus on what I couldn't do, and it would bog me down, and it would get me depressed. It would get me in a place where this is how I used to do it. Why can't I do it anymore? And I'd focus on kind of the past. But then I started kind of focusing on moving forward, be like, all right, with this technology, I can do it like this, or with a helpful hand of a caregiver, a friend, a family member, I could do it this way. And all of a sudden I started figuring out I could do so many cool things. And it's just, yes, it's different, but it's still doing, it's still experiencing the world around you. And I've just been, it's kind of pushed me in a direction of accomplishing goals, accomplishing different things that I set my mind out to. And I'm a very busy quadriplegic, and I like being a busy quadriplegic. And I love advocating. I love mentoring. I'm a big believer that we should never stop learning. Like every single day, I'm within our community. I'm learning from you. I'm learning from others. I'm teaching others. Like it's one of those things. It's as somebody with a spinal cord injury, we will always be a mentor and mentee for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
And that's important to embrace that. And it's that's from the best way to explain it, that's what community is all about, is being a mentor and mentee for the rest of your life.
Now, you said something that I really don't want those who are listening to this episode to miss, because back, even when you were talking about golfing, like you still enjoyed it, but you were a spectator for a while. And until you came up with, you invented a way to participate again. It may not be the traditional way. It may not be the most popular way everyone else is doing it. It may draw stares and attention, but guess what? You're participating and you're back doing something you love. And I know, just like you probably have, you run into people who have just settled into that role of just spectating and just looking at other people. And I had to work myself through it. It took about 2 years for me to really kind of start getting back to my own social self. And I was just like, look, it may not be the same way I used to do things, but I'm still doing the things I love. I'm still participating. I'm still me. And I think I would rather that 1,000 times over, more so than missing out on the things that I love. So, you may have to find a creative way of doing it. You may have to do it differently, but that doesn't mean you have to miss out on the things you enjoy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just getting out there and obviously so much of this is getting those right supports in place. Like I would not be able to do a lot of what I do without having, getting into Medicaid and getting into having independent living community supports with caregiving. So there is a system in place out there, and figuring out how to make sure you get those supports you need, or learning from others on how they advocate for more care or how they find care. Like I call it the advocacy game of life. Like so much of navigating this world is playing the game, because so much of being a quadriplegic, or at least with a high level injury, is relying on the system. And it's not a bad thing to rely on the system. Having support is a good thing. Like there's nothing in the rule book that says you have to do life alone. Second, you do it alone, it becomes lonely, and it becomes like I said before, I mentioned, I enjoy sailing. Like you need to become your own best captain of the ship, and you get to navigate what directions you go. But having crewmates, having friends, having families, and caregivers and healthcare providers and coworkers, whatever you name it, you're gonna have a lot of people be on this journey with you to like go into the direction you want to go in. And I found the more and more people you can have be a part of your journey, the easier life becomes. And it also, it means, you have, so much of it is trying to surround yourself with beautiful people too.
I think that was one of the first things that they taught me in therapy. For one, to self-advocate. The whole squeaky wheel analogy we've heard all our lives, but you have to speak up for yourself. Find your voice, since we're talking about that as well, and also finding your community, because I didn't envision getting active in the SCI community. You're thinking about yourself. You're thinking about survival. Literally, many of us, especially with the higher level injuries, you're thinking about what can I do tomorrow, and then little do you know, those answers are sometimes within that spinal cord injury community, with some of the folks from support groups, from online communities, from spinalpedia.com. You're finding these answers because people have been getting hurt. Yeah, I wasn't the first person. You weren't the first person to get hurt. So establishing that community, getting that help. And I could say I'm blessed as well, because my friend and family unit have always been there to support me as well. So again, for those listening, it may not be those closest to you. You may have to reach out online or go to the nearest hospital or rehab facility, but establish that community.
Let people in, let people help you. It's not a weakness to get help.
Yeah.
It's actually a strength. And as long as you are in charge, as long as you are directing the path you want to go in, that is another way of independence. Like, a lot of people think or you could say I'm dependent on my caregivers. I'm dependent on my family members to tackle my day. Because guess what? I can't brush my teeth. I can't get out of bed on my own. I can't do a lot of things physically. But through my caregivers, through my family, through my friends, I live an independent life. And it's just a matter of making sure you mentally know what direction you want to go. And just that community. Like, I just, so often, if you're doing it alone, you're having to figure out everything out on your own. But you don't have to. You don't have to it's important to know that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's been a lot of other people that have figured this out, and learning all the ways that they do it and all the ways they've learned not to do it. It's, the big thing about spinal cord injury is after our injuries, we all kind of almost got a doctorate in spinal cord because we're living it. We put the 10,000 hours in, but we start speaking spinal cord, and that it's like our own little language of being able to talk about autonomic dysreflexia or your level of injury, or, the different ways of approaching catheterization. And there's all these things that people outside of the spinal cord community probably would be like, all right, what are they talking about? But for us, it's our day to day. So being able to talk through those things with others, we have that special connection with each other.
Yeah.
And we leveraging that and embracing that and coming together. It's just, there's a lot of lifelong friendships that I've had that I feel very blessed and lucky to have through the spinal cord community.
Yeah, I'll definitely co-sign that. So now here you are, young man, you put yourself back into school, you're figuring out, this is a time where you should probably be as selfish as possible, and everyone should understand, but you decided to come up with the Determined2Heal Foundation. Where did that come from, and what was the original goal?
So early on in my injury, I had this incredible teacher that I had in school who just retired during my injury, and decided she wanted to bring me back to school. And that's when we did the poetry courses, public speaking. And during that time, we did all these different exercises to figure out who I wanted to be. And I just kept on coming back that I was determined to move forward, determined to get better and to heal from this injury. And about 10 months after my injury, I compiled so much information that I had to figure out on my own. And I just realized I could do better to help simplify this transition for other families. And I had these incredible mentors that came into my life. And each time I met a new person, it's like I learned something from them. Like, I wish I met them sooner. This would have been so much easier. I would have been in a better direction. So yeah, within that first year, those first 10 months, I was just so fed up with, saying, I wish I had this. I wish I had this during those initial weeks after my injury. And that's where Determined2Heal was born. And since 2005, we've helped tens of thousands of families. We've created Spinalpedia, where we take those 30,000 videos and break them all down by physical functionality. So you put your exact movement into the Spinalpedia filter, and the next thing you know, you have 1,000 mentors, 1,000 different videos within your unique physical functionality to show you what's possible. And it's just, so much about that was, so many people gave to me early on that I wanted to give back. And it just so happened I was able to do it early on in my injury, but I would not have been there without those people in my life. So I owe it all to them.
And you said it before, like getting your spinal cord injury, it's like life becomes a cycle of being a mentor and a mentee the entire time. And I have to, again, applaud you, because it was the same thing for me. You're trying to figure out your benefits, you're trying to figure out insurance, you're trying to do all these things. And unfortunately, at least when I was injured, you had about 45 days of being inpatient in the hospital. That's not enough time to figure out your physical health, your mental health, your emotional situation, and then prepare your family for you to come home. And so there's a lot of figuring out on your own. There's a lot of information. Ironically, I was given like a huge booklet, and I'm like, well, I can't turn the page, so what am I going to do with this book? But there's so much information that's in front of you and so many problems that you have to figure out. And it feels like you're alone. And I know many people that have had this solution. And my first one was another guy. He was in therapy about a month right before me. And it was his mother. She was the first one to kind of help me through the Social Security rigmarole, I guess, all the issues they had to deal with. And then you start to realize that without someone who's been injured, of course, they assigned us a mentee when we we're in the hospital. And, for me, I don't think I was ready that first month to understand why they were important. But by month 6, trying to figure everything out, I was calling him very often. His name was Woody Beckham down here in Miami. And between him and Ryan Gabauer, they were just really amazing as far as giving me as much information as I could, pointing me in the right direction, because there's so much. There's so much going on, and you're still trying to figure out, again, being a young man, you're still trying to figure out how you feel about the situation, how to move forward. So I think it's way too much to deal with it. And the fact that you're able to come up with not only the foundation, but that resource website, those make it so much different. I remember the first one I came across was, of course, the Christopher Reeves Foundation. And I came across Spinalpedia while I was just doing research. And then, of course, United Spinal came up, and these resources really changed the game. It puts you ahead of others who are trying to, unfortunately, do it all on their own.
Oh, well said. And with the Determined2Heal, our big thing is any newly injured family within the first year of their injury, like the quicker we can get to you, our services are there to help kind of guide you in the right direction. And there's certain things that you talk with, the person that's injured, but then there's other conversations that you then have with the family members and friends, because the more you can do as a team, the more you're able to get in the right direction quicker. And there's a lot of things that can be done in parallel, but with an injury, there's certain things that you just need to focus on to keep your body healthy, to learn more and focus on kind of skin management, being able to get your exercise program down. So there's just so many different layers to this injury, as you well know, and there's so many unanswered questions that if you can talk through with somebody that's knowledgeable and that's there, it becomes that much easier. So really, of anybody that's newly injured, whether you're listening to this, you're a family member, a friend, please contact Determined2Heal, contact me personally, find me on Facebook, you name it, and would love to start that conversation and be there as a mentor for you. And I love it more than anything, to tell you the truth. It's just, and then what I also, love about getting to families early on is you get them in that direction early on, to go in better places. and it's just watching their journey. Like, I know it's weird, but I've been at this now for 19 years, and just like being a mentor to people early on and seeing what they've done, what they've accomplished when they get that first job, when they graduate school, when they get married, when they go on their first airplane ride, and just like being there early on, you kind of get that feeling that you're a part of that. Like, and it's really, it's a beautiful world we live in, and to be able to share within people's journeys. Like, I love that. And
even coming from the perspective of someone who's injured, and for those listening, those little victories, they create bigger ones. Everyone says it takes baby steps. It starts with, for me, one of the first things that really kind of helped me start getting my confidence back was our rec therapist. She took this Kathy Herring from Jackson Memorial Hospital. She's now retired. She made us all go to Chili's, just a simple little restaurant. And I was so nervous. I was like, my chair, I'm not gonna have space. But then you get there and there's 10 other people in chairs, and they set up the tables for you, and the caregivers were all there. And we were going to Bayside here in Miami, and it's like a large outdoor shopping area. And it's like people are watching you, but then you're like, man, I'm going about my business. And those little victories, they kind of start to snowball. And now, like you said, next, you're on your first flight. My first flight since my injury was this past December. Terrified. And not just because I was worried about flying, but you hear all the horror stories, and they're real. It doesn't take away from the reality of them, but the simple fact that, you have to take that risk. You have to kind of go forward, because, if I had the opportunity to do that and I was able-bodied, I wouldn't have missed the opportunity anyway. So different things like that. Going on your first interview, maybe you didn't get that job, but now you're confident for your second and third interview. So pushing forward, as Josh was just telling us, and those little victories, those little moments, those are what snowball and push you forward and get you, once you're in that right direction, nothing can really stop you.
So true. And you just gotta have that leap of faith to get outside your home, and just I know I've said it earlier, but the supports, like my employment journey started with vocational rehabilitation, where every single state in this country has a VR program, vocational rehabilitation, which has the sole purpose is to get people with disabilities into the workforce. And part of that is getting an education, getting through school, getting the training, getting the technology you need. And the VR programs in every state can help you do that. And they can pay for school, they can pay for that technology. And it's just having those supports in place helped me, get through school, and then being able to then, get out and experience the world, the workforce. I kind of figured out a lot of different internships and things of that nature, where I was able to see, is this what I really want to do in life? Is this how I want to do it? And while doing that, you can enroll in what's known as Medicaid buy-in programs, which let you buy into Medicaid with employment, so you can have higher income and assets. And 46 out of 50 states have it. Unfortunately, I know you live in Florida, which does not have it, which needs to change. We can talk later about how we can advocate to make that happen. But there's a path forward, and there's systems in place that allow us to not only survive in the community, but thrive in the community. And yes, there are horror stories with airplanes, with employment, with there's basically a horror story for everything within the spinal cord life. But there's also those amazing adventures and journeys and success stories that exist. And it's so important that we get more of those success stories out there, so people can learn how to do it safer, and how to have better experiences around them. But even with flying, there's certain things that you could do to better position yourself to not have a horror story. But even if you do everything 100% correct, the airlines can find a way to still damage your wheelchair and damage you. But if you do certain steps in place, you give yourself a better chance for a better experience.
And I will say this, through my experiences doing the podcast and these interviews, I've heard so many stories. And many of them, thankfully, the individuals can look back and laugh, whether it was a catheter accident or a bowel accident at the wrong moment or falling out of their chair, you believe it or not. And the reality is afterwards, it only went better. You're like, well, it was an experience. I learned from it, and I won't make that mistake again. And like I've told the story a few times. I was like, my first date post spinal cord injury, I had a catheter issue, and I hid it real well, and didn't find out until I got home. And and I learned from there, what to do and what not to do from there. So the reality is, you're going to have horror stories. You're going to have experiences, but that shouldn't stop you. Just like everyone else in the world, everyone else has misfortune, everyone else has challenges to overcome, but that shouldn't stop you from living life and going on life's adventures.
I totally agree with you. And getting out there, like dating, dating was scary, but it also was thrilling, and it was fun, and it was like I kind of turned it into its own kind of game of sort, to be able to experience the DC area more. So I created lots of dates to be like, all right, I never did this before, I want to experience that. Or I came up with a system in place to try it out. And so much of life is just confidence.
Yeah.
Like, the bottom line, whether you have a disability or not, if you bring more confidence to your life, if you believe in yourself, if you just have the ability to say, you know what, I'm going to give this a try. It's just so much, you experience so much more around you. And, dating, after my injury, I know I was only 18 at the time, but I still, while I was laying in bed and staring up at the ceiling, in the critical unit, I did wonder, am I going to become a dad someday? It was always a dream of mine to be a dad and to be a coach and to be able to raise kiddos. And, I never gave up hope with that. And I did the dating scene because I wanted to find that partner. And I hit up all the dating apps. I did Match.com, I did Tinder, I did eHarmony, Bumble, you name it. And I went on dates. I fell for some girls, dated. So some girls broke my heart. I broke some girls' hearts. And, the next thing you know, you just keep trying. And I ended up finding an incredible partner. And Katie came with a beautiful, at the time, two-year-old daughter. And I fell in love with her as well. And about 18 months ago, Katie gave birth to our son through IVF. And going through that journey. And right now, and I keep calling Katie my partner. I wish I could call her my wife, but if we were to get married, I would lose all my caregiving.
Which is a whole nother issue. Goodness.
So we're working on changing a law in Maryland to lift the income and asset limits. Come January 1, we got the governor of Maryland to agree to lift the income limits for workers with disabilities, but there's still a bunch of marital issues that come with it. So we're going to keep advocating until we can break down those barriers. So that's the Medicaid buy-in program I was telling you about. And right now we're working on changing the law. Tennessee does not have one, and we're working with advocates on the ground to get one in Tennessee. District of Columbia does not have one. We're working to make that happen as well. We definitely need to make it happen in Florida.
We're going to have to definitely get you to agree to a part 2, because I have so many questions about the benefit programs and how it affects our income. And I mean, you sound like the guy to really sit down and chat with it, especially through your own personal experiences. So we're going to have to put that on the calendar, if not for before the end of the year, next year.
Let's do it in October, Disability Employment Awareness Month.
I mean, hey, folks, you heard it already. So, well, that'll be perfect. If we have time while we're in Vegas, we'll have a great conversation. Let's do that then.
Let's make it happen.
It's already on the calendar. Done deal. So now, you just said 18 months ago, she gave birth to your beautiful son, which is amazing. I've had many stories of success and no success as of yet through IVF for folks on the podcast. one of my favorite is Alex Lubin here in South Florida. Through his IVF, they had triplets. They were not expecting it, but it was like, hey, the 3 babies,
Oh, wow.
it's his blessing. But a few folks I know I follow on YouTube, they're still working on it. So even myself, like I often think about whether I want to go down that route when I find my partner, because I've always wanted to be a father, but it's like it's a kind of scary, especially since not all insurances cover it. It can be expensive and it doesn't always work. So do you mind if I ask how, what were some of the emotions you guys were going through during the process?
Absolutely. It's first getting it covered by insurance is a big help because it is expensive. And so luckily Katie is a school psychologist, so she had great insurance through the public school system with her job. And going through that process, it's so much of being there. I can never say, I gave, or, we're not pregnant. Katie's pregnant. So it's like, it's really understanding, like, how do you become the best partner you can be, to be there, to be supportive, to be on that journey, and contribute in every way that you can. So with Katie, it's just, I always just try to find ways, with our communication, what can I do? Or I say, I was thinking about doing this for you, and being there to have her back. Physically, I couldn't do a lot of things, but being supportive and being present and being active within the relationship. She wasn't alone during it. She did the heavy lifting, that is for sure. She, sacrificing her body in every way. Like, it's just, I grew so much appreciation for her, which I always appreciate her, but also for my mom and everything she did for me, giving birth to me and then also raising me, and but going through that process and learning everything I could and being there for her. It's just, it wasn't a 9-month experience. It was, more of a 1.5 to 2 year experience to go through the IVS, doing all the shots, being able to retrieve the eggs, being able to retrieve the sperm, going through all those things. Luckily, I was able to do my own donation through Katie helping me to provide the donor sperm. But other people, there's other ways of getting it. There's electrical stimulation you can do to get it. You can actually do a surgical where you slice open a testicle to be able to gain access to the sperm. There's other retrieval methods to making that possible. So it's IVF. It's a pretty cool chemistry experiment that puts together the right ingredients, and the science is really incredible.
I actually have Dr. Ibrahim from the University of Miami and Jackson Memorial Hospital. He's actually supposed to be joining me on the podcast, if not next month in November, to talk more about the IVF and ED and some of these things that we do with post-spinal cord injury. So look out for that episode coming soon. We'll be able to get more into it. But now, to be fully transparent, and you mentioned it a little bit, my fear is because of my high level of injury. You and I are about the same area. I think I have a bit more function on my right arm. But is the fear that I can't be as physically involved, not only while my partner may be going through pregnancy, but through the child rearing. And, I do my best with my siblings now and their kids. And, I'm an uncle and I do my part, but your hands off to a certain degree. So to be transparent, I think that has been my hesitancy and my fear. And, as a man, I'm sure you've had some of these concerns as well.
Yep. And with that being, being a reality, physically, we are limited to what we can do, but being present, being a good partner, stepping up in a lot of the other areas to be supportive, to have their back, and then developing technology or different setups. Like I was able to invent this, with the help of others, this special rail system on my wheelchair to hold a baby carriage. So I can have the baby right in front of me and wheel around with the baby. I'm now using this special technology retainer where I use my tongue with a touchpad, and I'm able to control my devices, and I'm able to play with this special robot on the ground with my kids. I'm able to play different apps with them using technology, or creating dance parties, putting the dance on and dancing around, or using different straps to hold my baby to my stomach, or different adaptive clothing to my chest. There's all these different ways of making those touch points with different creative approaches to making it happen. And is it different? Yeah, but being present is more than half of being a good parent, and being there, having them back, and loving on them, and having those smells. Like I love having my son on my chest. Just the simple thing of just smelling him, like he's.
I'm about to say probably not all the smells, but some of them.
Yeah, not all of them, but like just a baby is just, I don't know. There's so many incredible memories of just, and those touch points, and especially in bed. I do my bowel program in bed. I do a lot of time in bed where I'm on my side, and just having, the baby next to you or in your arm, and just having those touch points. Like there's all these moments that are just beautiful that you find if you're willing to be next to the ones you love.
I'm gonna wait for you to put out the Quad Dad book series and how to be the best quad dad possible, and what technologies will be helpful, because it's amazing. And again, I'm realistic, and I've had those conversations with people, potential partners, and not to say those aren't real concerns, because they really are. And I'm just glad to hear it from your perspective, because some of the other guys I knew were para, so they had the capability to use their upper bodies, but to hear it from a higher level quad like myself is very encouraging.
And I reached out to a lot of quad fathers, and I ended up interviewing like 5 to 7 quad dads, like during the months when Katie was pregnant. And I was like, I want to learn from you. I want to find the ways to do it, what not to do it. Where were the struggles? What did you like? What are the different approaches? And it's just, I learned from other dads, and I had their real wheel experiences to tell me kind of what to do, what was going through their mind, what were the struggles. And it made me kind of approach it differently, rather than kind of learning from my mistakes, or, just learning, just like I came in with a game plan. And I guess I like coming in with a game plan. That just might be my personality, but like, there's a lot that you learn on the fly, but there's also a lot of things that you can avoid, and a lot of approaches that you can try out to figure out what works for you. So I very much enjoyed that with other quad dads. And, there was even another quad dad that basically has very limited movement in legs and arms, nothing to be able to kind of be able to really hold, but he had a lot of upper body kind of strength and use his mouth to do more things. And it was just like, it was amazing to hear his journey out. He was able to do different feedings with his mouth with his son. He doesn't have a spinal cord injury, but he had a significant birth injury. But that was incredible to hear how he did it. And it just said, through a little creativity and the right approach, you can do it. You can make it happen.
I'm just going to throw an idea out there. I think that would be a great video series of different quad dads, or, just dads with significant disabilities and how they interact, because it would be very encouraging to some of us who are thinking about it or who have those concerns. So thanks so much for sharing that. Like that's amazing.
Absolutely.
So now, as we're getting closer to the end of the episode, I want to talk more about your work as an attorney. First of all, getting through law school, which is not easy on a regular basis. So adding in the spinal cord injury, I'm sure it was. Did it make it any easier? And of course, your work as an advocate.
So much of getting through school was putting the hours in, and it just being able to focus and let your professors know that you've absorbed the information, you could provide it back within the testing. So like, really, I'm a big believer in getting the right accommodations in school. And accommodations is not a weakness. Accommodations creates an even playing field. Accommodations allows you to be able to perform at your highest levels. So getting those accommodations, whether it's extra time, a private setting to do your testing, to be able to get the note takers in class, to be able to, type out the information you need, to be able to. There's so many little elements to get through school, and might be another series we can talk through. But it's getting through school is one thing, and then getting into the workforce and being able to work to your full potential. It's just, I really love work for what it provides me from a purpose standpoint, but also from a quality of life standpoint, earning dollars. Like, we have the most expensive injury imaginable, and every dollar it makes can improve your quality of life. So getting out there working, it's just, there's a lot of benefits to employment. And as a medical malpractice attorney, most attorneys are nerds, which is a good thing. I'm a nerd, but being a quadriplegic nerd, I get to be an empathetic nerd / attorney, and being able to connect with my clients and being able to help them through navigating community supports, and being able, because what a lot of people don't know, with when you have a personal catastrophic injury due to the negligence of someone else, it can take anywhere from 2 to 4 years to litigate. So it's a long process. And being with my clients on their side and having their back through their journey, it creates a much added value to them. But then also, one of my specialties is building out life care plans, knowing how much it's going to cost to take care of yourself for the rest of your life, and knowing how to do it properly. So often attorneys just create these boilerplate plans. They jump from one client to another with, or the same plan for paraplegic and a quadriplegic. I'm sorry, it's totally different worlds. You need to build it out, because every single one of those dollars, there's millions of dollars on the table to be able to properly build out a life care plan to make sure that they have the supports for the rest of their life that they need. So I love doing that, and I love working with clients all across the country, matching them up with local attorneys. You name it. It's about getting families in the right direction within their legal journey. I'm barred in Maryland and DC, but there's always the ability to work with clients all over the country. And it's a tough journey out there, and not have to do it alone and have the right supports behind you can make all the difference in the world. And so that's part of it, is being a medical malpractice attorney, but also being an attorney allows me to then get into the policy world of breaking down barriers, changing laws, whether it's at the state level or the federal level, and understanding how to put those pieces of the puzzle together and making real change on a systemic level. I love doing as well.
And it says a lot, because through the work with United Spinal, like, sometimes as just a member, you feel like, my voice doesn't mean much. But as we've come to find out, and I've done some advocacy work through the Alzheimer's Association, through the ALS, and we've visited the state capitol, it takes seeing the people, it takes seeing and hearing those stories to make people like you, give you the power to get policy enacted and changed. And I've always encouraged folks, even prior, again, to my injury, to be involved in the local politics and understand what's going on. And now the fact that, I didn't care about Social Security and Medicare and all that prior to my injury. So now I'm like, oh my goodness, all of it's so important. I need to know what's on the up and up and what's going on. So
It's power in numbers.
Listeners, encourage, especially with Spinal Cord Injury Awareness, like, what advice can you give for them as far as being involved?
First, getting involved is the first step, and connecting with organizations like United Spinal Association and working with them to learn about the issues of the day, learning how to advocate, and then coming together with power enough numbers so that our voices and wheels can be heard. So it's just, connecting with organizations like United Spinal is huge. And I know we're at the hour right now, and this was just so much fun today, being able to speak with you and your audience. And I just want to thank you for that.
No, Josh, again, every minute we get to spend, I appreciate it. I look forward to us meeting and getting to meet Katie out in Vegas. Before we go, give the folks the websites or how they can get in contact with you.
Sure. So come to spinalpedia.com to have a mentoring platform, to have your back, join as a community member, add videos, visit Determined2Heal.org to see more resources as well. Follow us on social media with Spinalpedia, and find me on Facebook, Josh Basile, and add me as a friend, and let's communicate through private messaging. And just, so there are different ways to reach me.
I'll make sure to have all of that in the episode notes. Again, attorney Joshua Basile, I appreciate you for joining me today. We're celebrating Spinal Cord Injury Awareness Month, and I look forward to getting to hang out with you in person. Maybe play a game of poker or something when we're in Vegas. But until then, you enjoy yourself. Tell the kids I said hi, say to Katie. But you have a wonderful day.
You too. Can't wait.
Thanks.
Bye. Bye, bud.
Thanks for tuning in to the show. Connect with the podcast on social media. Check out our Instagram page at ramp.it.up.podcast or email us at rampituppodcast@gmail.com. Until next time.